Welcome everyone. It is the Search for Tiki, and we are proud to have another night, 13 Nights of Tiki Frights. Tonight is going to be a fantastic night. We're super excited to talk with Tiki Rob. Tiki Rob is a mug maker on the island of Maui, and people go crazy for his mugs. If you've been to Tiki Oasis in Arizona or San Diego this year, the lines for Tiki Rob's booth were absolutely insane. Tiki Rob's one of my personal favorite mug makers, so I'm super excited to talk to him. But first, a couple announcements. We will be announcing the winner of this amazing Tiki mug here by Carol, who goes by @MiniTikiMeow on Instagram. If you're not following her, check her out. She makes awesome mugs like this one, which is a tribute to Tiki Rob. We're also going to be giving away two other things during this live stream: a pin from the Black Lagoon rum, which is this Kraken tentacle, enjoying a refreshing cocktail, and this glass cocktail straw from Surfside Sips, which has a little jack-o'-lantern pumpkin on it. So with that said, I'm anxious to talk to Tiki Rob, so let's see if we can get him in here. Hey Rob, how's it going?
Good, I'm here.
You made it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right, let me get my volume up. Okay.
How's it going, dude? What time is it?
It's only 3 o'clock my time.
That's not bad. It's been dark a couple hours here.
Yeah? What time is it there? Like 9 at night?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock.
Crazy. You guys on the
I'm
East
drinking
Coast?
from my Lono tonight.
Oh, perfect. That's a good one.
So Tiki Rob, for those that are unfamiliar, I doubt there are many people in this chat that are unfamiliar with Tiki Rob, but he makes mugs based out of Maui in Hawaii. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you moved there in the late 80s,
Yep.
but it wasn't until almost 20 years later that you started making mugs.
Right.
How did that happen? What got you hooked?
Oh my gosh, this is a long story. I started collecting mugs way before I started making mugs.
Okay.
I was collecting mugs probably for almost 20 years before I started making mugs, or maybe about 10, 12 years before I started making mugs. As a graphic designer, we get all these catalogs in the mail, and
Okay.
get a catalog from House Industries. This is before the internet was, crazy like it is now. And House Industries did a article on Monk Tiki, and I had never even heard of Tiki mugs before. But when I read that article, I kind of looked into it a little bit and decided to order some Tiki mugs from Monk Tiki to give to my biggest clients for Christmas. So I ordered 5 mugs from Monk Tiki back when they were like $25, $30 a piece, and then gave them out to my favorite clients, gave them all away. And then I said, shoot, I need to get some for myself. And Monk Tiki had just started doing like eBay only mugs, and that was kind of like my introduction to eBay. Had eBay before, so I started buying Monk Tiki mugs off their site and started checking out eBay and learned about all these vintage mugs. Got into Tiki Central, and just kind of went crazy from there. But I always wanted to make mugs, but I just never knew how. There's no ceramic store in Maui. There's no classes or anything over here, so.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I was going to do it, and really kind of gave up on it because I didn't have the resources out here. And then one day a guy walked into my office and said, hey, can you make me a postcard? And I said, sure. And he looked and saw my Tiki costume and went, wow, that's a super cool costume. And then he turned around and walked out the door. He said, I'll be back. And then I came back a day later and wanted me to make a postcard of his ceramic art. And I'm like, hey, can you teach me to do ceramics like this? And he said, make a book for me and I'll teach you how to make Tiki mugs. And so that's kind of how it all started. Crazy.
Was the costume you just mentioned this one?
What's that?
The costume you mentioned, was it one of these?
That's the costume, yes.
Yeah, okay. And this is one of 3 that you made?
I actually made that one first, and that's the only one I still have. I made 2 other costumes very similar. One is really short and wide, and the other is was about that size, maybe a little wider. But we wore them down on Front Street in Maui, for many, many years. I probably made that costume almost 20 years ago now, maybe 18 years ago. Crazy.
They, so
All
there's
right.
a photo that Carol actually includes inside the mug, which is pretty cool. So that's got to be you. So you looked outside the mouth, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
see, walking out of the parking garage with a sign that says, if your car is taller than, what does it say? 7 feet or
Yep. 7 feet 6 inches max.
yeah. So that bar was at 7 feet 6 inches. I was quite a bit taller than that. So it was
What did
pretty.
you make it out of?
It's there's like a wire framework, and then it has PVC inside that wire framework. I wrapped a sheet around it, painted it with paper mache, and that kind of tightened up the sheet to like a drum. And then I just added other elements with paper mache. So I have straps inside. I wear it like a backpack. It has a cup holder. So I was the only one on Front Street drinking beer because. And there's also I have a fan inside too to keep it cool.
What's it usually like Halloween?
Uh,
Temperature wise.
Temperature wise, I mean, this is Maui, so it's always in the high 70s, mid 80s, around there.
Always beautiful. Is like Halloween a big thing?
Oh, it's huge. Not this year. They've kind of canceled it because of the whole coronavirus thing. But they closed down Front Street in Lahaina, and they did kids parade, in the late afternoon, and then the adults kind of take over after kids parade. There's lots of bands playing music. There's food vendors. There's a huge, huge Halloween costume contest. The year that I had all three costumes down there, my dad was wearing one, and my good friend Sean was wearing another. We entered the costume contest, and actually, I think I got second place that year.
Not bad.
Which was a trip to Lanai for two, so it was pretty awesome. Lanai, and we got to stay at the Lodge at Kauai up on top of Lanai. It was very, very cool. And they also included, what was funny is a round of golf with the prize, but we don't golf. So they turned the golf money into like resort money so we could eat for free and do a bunch of stuff at the resort for free. So it was pretty cool.
So it all worked out.
Yeah, it worked out great.
When you when you first started making mugs, you mentioned Monk Tiki. Who did you look up to? Who were your big grails?
This is my very first mug ever. I brought it for show and tell. Is the Super Tiki Deluxe by Monk Tiki. The first mug I ever bought for myself, and it just kind of went crazy from there. But what was your question? I kind of got off track there. Who did I look up to as mug maker? Probably at that time, Notch, Gecko, and Monk Tiki. Mainly Monk Tiki was my big one I was collecting. Eventually I started building Gecko's website. So we did a little deal where rather than paying me in money, he paid me in tiki mugs. So I've got a lot of Gecko mugs from back in the day.
It seems like a fair trade to me.
Yeah, it worked out good for me. Yeah, and it worked out good for him. He was able to just make mugs, as my payment. So it was all good.
And he's on a different island, right? He's on is he on Oahu?
He's on Oahu, the busy island.
Okay. Yeah. Which island do you think has like the most, I get this question all the time, the most tiki stuff to do?
I mean, the Big Island has the most tikis, I believe, The place of refuge is just unbelievable. There's the best tikis you ever seen are all at the place of refuge on the Big Island, just outside of Captain Cook. That's pretty awesome. And so,
do you know how, so I see it written on the internet, but I've never heard anyone actually say it. So tikis in Hawaii were called something different. I think it's K-I.
Ki'i. Yeah. Ki'i.
Okay. Ki'i. So like Hawaii, but Ki'i?
Yeah. That's kind of a funny story. I went to the place of refuge with Minnie Tiki Meow, Carol, who made that mug. And actually Scott was there. I don't know who else was there, but one of the guides, or one of the park rangers, I guess, from the place of refuge, um, was talking to us, and a lot of the tikis had like they were wearing clothing to hide their private parts. I don't know how else to describe it. And
Okay.
Carol asked the guide why the tikis were wearing that, and he said they're not tikis, they're ki'i. And we're all like, oh. So we didn't bring the conversation any further than that because we felt all embarrassed, like we didn't know what we were talking about.
So we still don't know the answer?
So I guess back in the day, the Hawaiians called them ki'i instead of tikis. But now I think ki'i is kind of gone by the wayside, and people call them tikis now.
Yeah, it's not something that you really hear outside of maybe like the Bishop Museum and the place of refuge. I think Tiki actually came from New Zealand, I believe.
Really?
I think the Maui, that's another word that I always have a hard time with, and
Maori.
Marcasian.
Yeah.
I think that's where Tiki comes from, and the word Tiki.
The word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess.
How did you? So obviously, the world in 2009 was a different place than it is today with the internet and Google and Van Tiki Technical Tuesday videos. How did you learn ceramics?
Well, I was saying the guy that walked in my office, I did a trade with him. I helped him with his book of which showcased all his ceramic art, and then I went to his house. He handed me a block of clay, and he said, "Carve a mug. Come back next weekend, and we'll make a mold, and I'll show you how to do it." So I spent a week and carved up a mug, and took it back to his house, and he showed me how to fix a couple things that would have been problematic for mold making. And then and then we just jumped right in and started making a mold. He basically handed me a block of clay and a little frame and says, start filling this with clay, fill it up halfway, and I did it all. He just kind of pointed me in the right direction, and he fired mugs for me for probably a good year and a half after that before I even bought a kiln.
Okay.
I brought that mug for show and tell too. This is the first mug I ever made.
Oh, let's look.
It says artist proof on the bottom.
Man, that was your first mug?
Yeah, I did a handful of them, and sold them, I think, for $25 a piece on my website, which was Maui Tiki Tours.
That's crazy. I'll take a dozen.
But look, all smooth around the top, round. I mean,
man, that is a good-looking mug. I would not look at that mug and think that was your first mug.
That's crazy. And then he actually, we tried to do a little bit of like a silver fishhook on there. And because I had the other glaze on so thick, it didn't come out so bright silver, but it definitely has a bit of a gloss to it. It's hard to see, like a chrome effect. Hard to see on the TV here on the phone.
Was that based on something that you had seen, or were you just having fun with it?
I just pulled it out of my head. I just started sculpting. I was under a lot of pressure to get it done, and because I had to do it in a week, and I didn't know what to do, and I kept putting it off. So I think I sculpted it all in like a day and a half, but I worked all day on it, I think, trying to get it just how I wanted it.
What did you sculpt it out of?
It was just like a regular water-based clay. I was probably looking at my Monk Tiki mugs when I did it. But it's pretty cool.
So you're talking about glazing. Glazing is always challenging. The glazes that you use today, do you use a lot of underglazes, or are you using?
What's funny is, I've never really had a class or anything, and I don't know anything about underglazes.
Oh.
I know Corey was telling you yesterday about how excited he was about working with underglazes, but I've honestly never worked with underglazes, or very, very little. Just recently I've started playing with it.
Okay.
But there's people like Biggs Tiki who glaze all their greenware before it's ever fired with underglazes. Then they fire it, and the underglaze, bonds right to the mug. because underglaze is actually mostly clay. It's like colored clay.
Yep.
It's not like where a regular glaze is like little jars of glass, right? So it's the glass melts and becomes a glossy glaze, or the underglaze is mostly clay. So it sticks right to the greenware, we call it, unfired clay. Yeah, so I actually just bought some underglazes, and my daughter's going to use them when she's painting her little puffer fish, like you've got behind you there. And
Yeah, let's look at that one.
she's doing all kinds of crazy details on them. And so I bought her some underglazes to try, and we're going to try putting underglaze on because they won't run at all, where everything I use could possibly run, but I kind of like that effect. So
Yeah.
this doesn't look so China made, you know, or exactly perfect. It all kind of flows, and that's what I like. It's kind of my style.
I think I heard you say somewhere, was this originally a coconut?
Yes.
Like a repurposed coconut mug?
Right. So the story behind that is both my son and daughter were laid off for COVID, and so they had no work, no income, and I said, you know, you guys should help me out, and they said, we'll make us a mug that we could work with. So I took my coconut mug that I had made years before, and I poured one in the mold and cut out. It was just regular coconut, and I added eyes to it in the tail, little mouth, and then I made a mold of that, just a two-part, simple two-part mold. And I said, okay, said to my son, now you pour the slip and take the mug out after an hour, clean up all the seam lines and everything. I'll fire it, and then we'll give it to your sister, and she can glaze them, and we'll see if they sell. And so it takes about a half hour for my son to pour it and clean it up and all his time. And my daughter was spending about a half hour glazing each one. We put 20 of them online at $80 a piece, and they all sold in about 3 minutes. And they looked at each other and said, well, I think we're making $80 an hour. That's a little bit better than our old jobs.
Yeah.
So they kind of got into it. My son was looking to buy a car, so he's like, okay, I'm going to pour 2 a day. We only had one mold, so the best you could do is pour 2 a day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And then he's like, if I pour 2 a day for the next week, I can make this much money. And he started. It was pretty funny. They got really into it. So it's all worked out. My daughter's like way into it now. My son's back at college, so he's not helping out so much. But my daughter's really into it, and
some of the ones that you just released in your Halloween sale are absolutely nuts, like the Day of the Dead one.
Exactly.
That one is so cool.
He's working on 2 of those right now, custom orders for people that saw the one at the Halloween sale and have asked her to do them. So if you want a pufferfish mug, I can put you on our list. Our list is getting kind of long, but I'll get her going on a pufferfish for you. I shouldn't say that. Uh-oh. She's going to get overwhelmed.
Now you're going to get 10,000 messages about the pufferfish mug. This was actually my first, because I'm still relatively new to collecting, within I would say 2.5 years. And this was my first Tiki Rob mug. So it has a special place in my heart. I love this mug. Actually, it was interesting because I couldn't see my nephew because of COVID. I forget what it was, but he had some kind of like special occasion. He like graduated from something or something, and so my brother and sister-in-law asked me to send a video. I'm like, how can I make this special? Well, he knows that I'm into tiki collecting mugs, so I actually filmed a video of me with this mug, and I'm like, this is a very special mug. It's my first Tiki Rob mug, and I only drink out of it on special occasions. So, like, cheers to you on your special day.
Awesome.
And he loved it.
So on the bottom, is it signed by 3 people or 2? It's got 3 signatures. Oh, see,
3.
So,
yep.
Done by my son, my daughter, and myself. So some of them only have 2 signatures, my daughter and myself, because my son's off at college right now. So
okay.
Yeah.
So I have one of the OG puffers then.
So I really like your hat.
I like my hat too.
That's pretty cool.
For those that didn't see, we have a new hat for the Search for Tiki that was designed with Tiki Rob with all these crazy mugs on it. And we actually, I think we only have 20 something of them left. Let me just announce it. So if you want one, get one. It's $30, but that includes shipping because we've had issues with shipping. So we just included that in the price.
Perfect.
I want to talk to you about this one. If I pronounce it correct, is it Mokai?
It's Mokai.
Mokai?
Yeah, in Hawaiian it would be probably Mokai, but
Okay.
it's a Marquesian style design. In Marquesian it's Mokai, which means cheers or good luck. So I thought that was kind of appropriate.
Is this like the opposite of the Gilligan's Island Curse Kona? Like, I don't want that in the house, but I do want this one.
Right, right. Yeah, you don't want the Greg Brady necklace or the Kurt
No.
Island.
Get him out of here.
Yeah.
This is the one to have. When you designed this, so I think this is a new design it was this year, right? Tiki Oasis in Arizona.
Right.
When you made it, did you have the intention of him holding things?
Not at all.
No.
I wanted to make something that I could turn out really quick, you know.
Yeah.
I had limited time before Arizona, you know, after I sculpted that one, and I just started making a few, and I said, shoot, look at his hands. I could put something in there. So I think the first one I did, I put a little coconut drink in his hands, and I thought, wow, that's cool. And then I got such a huge reaction from that on Instagram that everyone's like, oh my gosh, I got to get one.
You could do this. You could do that.
And all the ideas just started flowing, and it just went crazy from there. And now I haven't made one without, you know, holding something since that first week. Every one I've made since is holding
Well,
something.
it's such a genius design because you can take it in so many different ways just by having the one tiny unique thing on the front of it. And I saw you were
I don't
making
like I don't like doing like production where I have to do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yep.
So it helps me with my creativeness. I get to like do something creative with each one, you know, come up with an idea, sculpt a little teeny little element that he's holding, you know, and it just keeps my mind going. And it takes a whole lot longer, obviously. But,
Yeah.
it's so much more fun for me. That's what I like to do. I don't want to just be doing the same mug over and over and over again, you know, especially the cleanup phase, you know, after they come out of the mold, just clean up. Or if I can clean it up and add something to it, clean the next one up and add something to it, it kind of breaks up the monotony, you know?
Is that a 3-piece, 2, and then the bottom mold?
There's actually, it's a 4-piece mold. So there's the front is actually split in half, and then there's the back, and then the bottom piece.
Okay.
So it's really a 4-part mold. But the pufferfish is only 2 parts. It has when it comes out of the mold, it has actually a flat bottom. And so I get my finger wet and I push down a little bit and create a concave bottom right when it comes out of the mold.
Oh.
And then every one I have to hand carve my Tiki Rob in the bottom and the 3 H's, which, you know, both my kids' names start with an H. Their first name and H's. So that's that little, it almost looks like a tally mark, you know, on the bottom of that pufferfish. It's their logo, all the H's all together. So,
Love it.
yeah, it's kind
Do
of
you
fun.
so you don't usually use master molds, right? You're kind of different than a lot of makers in that you just use the plaster mold.
Right. I don't do the silicone thing. You know, I never even knew about that until Van Tiki started doing it. And now it seems like everyone feels like that's a requirement in making mugs. Oh, I have to make a silicone master and make multiple molds and all that. But you really don't. I mean, the Lono mug you're drinking out of, I've made over 200 of those out of one mold. I admit that some of the details I have to recarve every single time now.
Yeah.
But it's you know, just part of mug making. You know, it's like cleaning up seams. I just put some of the detail back in. Like the teeth, they're pretty much, the lines in the teeth on the Lono mug are pretty much non-existent anymore in the mold. So I hand carve each tooth, you know, the lines between each tooth every time it comes out of the mold. And that's
I personally like that, right? Because like on Lono in particular, like just in your Halloween sale, you had like your own special carvings that went up kind of up the sides. It makes them unique. It makes them interesting.
Exactly. So each one is, I have to fix that stuff. So I started making them different. I started, you know, adding crazy details and everything. So it's just more time with each mug, but still, it's you know, it's what makes them special. It makes it a Tiki Rob mug. It's not like everybody else's. You don't just, when I have a sale, I don't say, here's what the mug looks like. I have 100 of them. Everyone ordered gets the same mug. When I have a sale,
Yep.
there's a picture of every single mug because everyone's different. And I think that might be the draw why I have the big line at Oasis. People want to come and get the one that they like best, you know. And it's cool because people compare their mugs and go, hey, like, this is what mine looks like. What's yours look like? Wow, you have one with the coconut. Oh, I've got one with the pineapple, you know. So it's pretty cool.
Do you have a favorite of the ones that you've made, specifically
Um,
your new design?
I mean, it's crazy. I have a new favorite every time I fire. So,
Okay.
I mean, initially I did one with a suffering bastard, holding a suffering bastard mug, and I thought that was pretty cool. But as I started doing like holding drinks and stuff, I've been putting umbrellas in them and a little lime wedge and stuff like that. So then I did a tiki bob, you know, with a lime wedge and a umbrella and a straw. And so those became my favorite for a while. But then with Halloween, we did the Jack Skellington ones, which I really liked. So those are kind of fun too. And then I did all the ones with the Disney masks that I sold at Arizona Oasis.
Yep.
So actually, no, those sold at
San Diego.
San Diego Oasis. Yeah. So some of those were my favorites at the time. But I'm about to do a bunch more. I'm going to fire tonight. And so I'll have pictures for you tomorrow of a bunch of new Mokati mugs. Actually, they're sitting right here in front of me. It's pretty funny to see what they look like before they get fired. Like this is the Bob. So he's ready to go in the kiln right now. So there's a little Bob.
Even the tiki itself has all been glazed.
Yep. It's all glazed. So I actually mask off the Bob with masking tape, and then I sprayed this with a couple shades of brown, and then I did another coat over the top to get the wood grain effect that I go for. So it's a multi-step process, but that's what
Do you have a spray booth, or do you just go outside?
I just go outside. You know, Van Tiki does Technical Tuesdays. I always wanted to do just Wing It Wednesday.
Just Wing It Wednesday? Yeah. I like it though because, I mean, there are so many people that want to get into ceramics and, you know, they send me emails or whatever asking for advice because I have this website, even though I don't make my own mugs. And a lot of people see other mug makers making these really expensive molds and buying spray booths and slip tanks and all this stuff. And all that stuff is cool, don't get me wrong, but it's not really necessary.
Not necessary, not at all. Yeah.
In your opinion, someone just starting out, they want to make some mugs, what do they have to make their first mug?
Clay and glaze, you know, I mean, you don't even have to make a sculpt and a mold and everything. You could actually just make a mug, you know, a one-off without even making a mold if you just wanted one mug. But if you want to get into slip casting, buy some clay at your local craft store. I mean, I don't have a ceramic store. I just we have what's called Ben Franklin out here, which is just a craft store. I buy a block of clay and then sculpt my mug out of the clay. I let it get about leather hard, they call it, you know. It's like not, but it's definitely, you can hold it without damaging it, you know. And then I just took, you know, some 2x4s and made a kind of a box. I set the leather hard mug in the box and then put, you know, the rest of the clay that came in that brick around it. And then I pour plaster. Everyone's like so worried about this Laguna pottery plaster type 1 or something. I use plaster of Paris. I just go to a hardware store, get plaster of Paris. You know, it's easily available here. I can't get pottery plaster here. I'd have to order it and ship it on a barge. So I use just regular old plaster of Paris. Just follow the instructions on the bag. I don't weigh it or anything. It's like 2 parts part water, you know, it's pretty simple. You just pour it on there, let it set up, flip the whole thing over, take the clay out, you know, that you had set in there, pour the other side, boom, you're done.
Wing It Wednesday.
I buy buckets of slip already mixed. I don't mix my own slip. I don't have a slip table. I don't have those fancy gasoline looking pour spout things, you know. I just I just pour my big 5-gallon bucket right into the mold. I can't lift the 5-gallon bucket, so I actually split the bucket into two buckets and only work with a half a bucket at a time. But just pour that in the mold out on my lanai. You know, depending on how thick it is, sometimes you wait half hour, sometimes you got to wait an hour before it's ready to be dumped out. Dump it out and you're good to go. That's a funny question I always get is like, how do you get the inside of your mugs hollow? It's because the slip actually, all the moisture sucks out into the plaster. So after having all the slip in the mold for, you know, half hour and 45 minutes, when you dump it out, it leaves the inside hollow.
You ever forget?
I
You fill it up and then you know, you go make dinner or something, you come back and you're like, wow, this is just a brick.
I've also poured mugs where I forgot to put the bottom in. And so I'm playing going, how come it's not filling up? You know, and all of a sudden I'm standing in a puddle of slip. Yeah, that only happened once.
Live and learn kind of thing. Is there any ceramic store in Hawaii on any of the islands?
There was one on Oahu, but they have since closed. So there's none in Hawaii anymore. None at all.
So what do you do for your glazes? Where do you get your glazes?
I just order them online from various places. I do low fire, which is a little bit easier than, you know, the mid fire or high fire stuff that a lot of people do nowadays. So my mugs actually will chip easier. I shouldn't be saying this, but because they are low fire, they're a little more fragile than some of the mugs. But the glazes that I use just got discontinued. So I may be switching to high fire pretty quick when I run out of my glazes. And then I'll have to start experimenting and learning again with the high fire stuff. You know, all fire is a little bit hotter, a little bit stronger. You use stoneware. It's just a different process.
Yeah, from what I've heard talking to a bunch of people, it used to be though that the higher temperatures, right, they didn't have good colors. And it's only like in the past few years where you can actually fire at those temperatures and still have the colors that will pop.
Right. But still, there's like, it's hard to get a really good red, you know, in certain glazes or certain glaze companies at certain temperatures, where like low fire glazes, I can get really good reds, you know, but with high fire glazes, it's a little tougher, you know. So you got to learn and practice, see what you can do, you know.
You have, on your mugs, because you use so many different colors, do you have just like a shelf of glazes?
Oh yeah, my shelf is like overflowing to where they're all on the ground in boxes too. I've got probably 60 or 70 pints of glaze upstairs in my house. Yeah. And it's funny, I keep usually 2 pints of the same color. One is really thick and one I water down. So when you're doing the inside of a mug, I use a more watered down glaze.
Okay.
And painting like the bottoms or some details, I use the thicker glaze because you want it to go on nice and thick and not be transparent or see-through. But you can't pour thick glaze into a mug to swirl it around and dump out to get the inside colors.
Have you ever had issues with like the holes on the inside? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
How does that happen, and how do you avoid that happening?
There's a few ways it happens, and it's really hard to avoid. If you have like a bubble in your slip, and it can leave like a little pinhole in the clay.
Yep.
And so when you're glazing the inside of a mug, basically you pour the glaze in, swirl it around, and then dump it out. And so when you pour it in, it doesn't actually fit that little teeny hole. It just would leave an air bubble in there. So that's how you get those pinholes. Also, if there's dirt in your slip, if you watch one of the more current Van Tiki episodes, he talks about straining his slip and finding all these little holes and stuff. Well, that coal will burn in the kiln and make a little hole. So there's not a lot you can do about it. It just happens. You know, sometimes I'll take a Dremel and I'll Dremel it all down and then put more clay or more glaze in there and fire it again.
Yep.
And About half the time that works. Other times it doesn't work at all. It just will fight you, and you'll never be able to fill that little tiny hole. So hopefully they don't bother you too much, that little pinhole, because every now and then I've got mugs, that'll have a little pinhole in them, but it doesn't really hurt the mug at all.
All right, so let's do a giveaway. Let's do
All right.
a straw giveaway. So this straw is from Surfside Sips.
Halloween.
It's got a little jack-o'-lantern on there. I got a question. I'll ask the question, and the first person to get the answer correct in the comments will win this straw. And the question is, hopefully I have the answer correct. If I don't, you can help me. But I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. What name did Tiki Rob go by on Ooga Mooga and Tiki Central? I'll give you a hint. It's not Tiki Rob.
Not Tiki Rob. Tiki Rob was taken.
Oh, is that why you didn't use Tiki Rob?
Yeah, it was already taken. And whoever used it on Tiki Central, they only posted like one post, maybe two posts. Came back. And so I always thought, shoot, I should be able to contact, the guy running it and have him kick that guy off and let me be Tiki Rob. But yeah, so I wasn't Tiki Rob for a long time.
So you never did find out who was Tiki Rob?
No. So we're gonna wait for the answer?
Yeah, we'll wait to see someone who guesses it. So I think people are throwing out some random answers. So maybe this is someone got it.
There it is.
Yeah. Or I think they got it. Maui Tiki, right?
Yep, Maui Tiki.
Yeah. So Astro_Otter, you guessed it correctly. Maui Tiki, you get the straw. Congratulations.
Perfect.
You were on Ooga Mooga pretty much when you first started making mugs.
Oh yeah.
Was Ooga Mooga a dangerous thing for your collecting habits?
I loved it. It was like such a good resource for knowing what mugs are worth, because I go on eBay and I see a mug that I've never seen before, and it was like buy it now for 50, and I could go to Ooga Mooga and go, okay, last time it sold on eBay, it sold for 75 or 80 or $100, and this guy's doing a buy it now for 50, so that's a good deal. So I'd go back and I'd buy it. There was a Kono mug on there one time on eBay, buy it now for like $20, and I'd never seen the mug before. And I went on Ooga Mooga, and it was like worth over 100 easy. And so I went right back to eBay to buy it, and someone else had bought it out from underneath me. So
you gotta be quick.
You gotta be quick. You gotta be quick.
Have you noticed a significant change in the past 10 years in regards to mugs in general? Like how quickly they sell out and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy. Back in the day when I first started collecting, which is 20 years ago now, or more than that probably, but I could buy every single mug. Any mug that came out, there was only like 2 or 3 mugs that came out a month. Usually 2 or 1 a month, It
now
wasn't
it's like 7 a week.
Now it's like exactly like 7 a week, and it's like crazy. And I felt, I would like not go on to Tiki Central for a couple weeks, and I'd come back and there'd be all these mug releases, and I'd be, oh my gosh, I'm getting behind. I haven't bought all the mugs. I haven't bought every single mug. And now there's no way you can keep up. So it's funny. I tell my collectors, if you want to collect mugs, you want to collect from people like myself who only put out 2 mugs a year. So I have maybe 3 a year, but more like 2 new designs a year. So it's easy to collect my mugs because you're only buying 2 a year, or maybe 3 a year.
But you got to camp out for 8 hours in advance at Tiki Oasis.
Unless you can find them, I have sales online and stuff like that, but it's also tough to get them that way too. But yeah, just it's crazy now. Some of the mug makers, are turning out so many mugs so fast that you can't keep up. So you got to pick and choose what mugs you're collecting. What you want to collect. I used to tell myself I collect mugs without handles. But now pretty much that's every mug. No one puts handles on their mugs anymore. But
what do you collect? What would you describe your collection as now? What is it that you go for?
I still try to collect tikis, believe it or not. Tikis. I don't like.
What a radical concept.
What else do people do? People do all kinds of crazy stuff, but I don't really collect skulls. I have a few, but I don't collect rum barrels or coconuts, things like that. I do have a few in my collection, but I don't, seek them out or anything. If it's a real Hawaiian style tiki, I have to have it for my collection, you know. Um, so that's kind of where I'm going now. Is just trying to collect tikis and start with the Hawaiian style ones are the ones I try to get most of. Now it seems like mask mugs, mugs like wearing a mask, these big masks are super popular. Everyone's doing that.
Like your PNG mask mugs, you mean?
Exactly, exactly. The Reef's got one now that John Mulder's putting out. That's just beautiful.
Yeah, the Protector of Paradise.
Right. They just released the
I think I
second.
have one. I know I have one. Hold on, let's just...
And then Farm just came out with one that's a Ken Ruzick design.
Yep.
Yeah. So Trader Vic's has one now. It's got a mask. The guy holding a mask. So those are kind of fun. It seems to be super popular right now. That leads me to my Christmas sale. I'm going to do a new mask mug for my Christmas sale. And I'm going to try to get 30 to 35 done. They're all going to be the same design, but obviously I'll glaze them differently. And those will be on sale.
Is this an all new design or is it your PNG?
It's a PNG, but it'll have a new face that no one's ever seen before. Actually, it's if you want me to give it away for the 97 people watching, it's going to be a face from Tiki Room Totem, from the Tikis in the Tiki Room. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, be quick.
Yeah, it's there's a couple different. There's the same design in a couple different places in the Tiki Room, and it's also in Trader Sam's. And each one is painted differently, but it's the same design. So when I start to sell them, I'll post pictures of the ones at Disneyland here, in the different colors so people can see. And then I'll do some that match the colors, and I'll do some that are my own colors. But most of the 30 will be different, slightly glazed colors. Yeah, it's good fun.
I personally, I think one of the best mugs that's ever been made, in my opinion, is your Adventureland one that's inspired by obviously Disneyland.
Right.
You've made a few mugs that are kind of Disneyland or Adventureland inspired.
Right.
When did you first go to Disneyland?
Oh my gosh, I've been going to Disneyland since I was a little kid. I mean, my family would go not very, like maybe once every 5 years, but I probably went my first time when I was probably 7 or 8, and then 13, something like that, And then my son started playing soccer. We do tournaments in San Diego, so we always included a Disneyland trip, when we were down there in San Diego playing soccer. So we'd extend the soccer trip to stay an extra couple days to go to Disneyland. So, and then he came every year because he was playing soccer down there every year. So we were back, probably 7 or 8 years ago now. We'd go every single summer. So I'm kind of a Disneyland freak. I enjoy it.
Was that your first exposure, so to speak, to like Tiki?
Yeah, maybe as a kid. I think so. Because I definitely remember the Tiki Room, going there when I was a little kid. My parents all there, and we went every single time. We actually had the album, the big record, the Tiki Room record that we would play on the record player, So I guess that's probably is my first real exposure to Tiki from back in the day. I remember buying, the glow-in-the-dark skulls and Adventureland and stuff like that, because I was always Halloween. So ever since I was a little kid, my brother and I would put on haunted houses in our garage on Halloween night and bring all the neighborhood kids through.
Ooh. Is Halloween your favorite holiday?
Oh,
you make costumes, you're doing?
Definitely my favorite holiday. I used to have a sign on my office window that said hours of operation, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then below it said closed Halloween. For years, that was on my door. And we always closed on Halloween because I had to work on my costume and get over to Front Street in time to go to the big Halloween costume contest.
I love it.
Yeah.
What are you doing this year for Halloween?
This year, my car club is doing a special event on the other side of the island, and they're going to create like a maze. Not really a maze you can get lost in, but it's a maze you drive through with your car. So
Okay.
families will come with the kids because with COVID and everything, trick or treating's kind of not such a good idea right now. So
Yeah.
what the thing is, you drive through with your family, and you're going to weave around through parked cars and all kinds of stuff. They're going to have, not only cars, but I don't even know what's going to be there, but it's going to be crazy because I know the path they're going to have to drive through. There's going to be all kinds of stuff, and then at the very end, they're going to give you a bag of candy that's all safe and everything for everyone that drives through. So it's going to be like,
That's such a cool idea.
yeah. So I have an orange car, so how can I not go? So I'm going to bring all our pumpkins. We have some, fake pumpkins that blow up, but light up when you plug them in. So I'll bring those and put them all around my car. And I'm thinking of wearing a, costume and stuff. I have a friend that's going to wear the big tiki costume and run around in that. So it's going to
So
be fun.
that costume is still it's still alive and breathing.
Sort of. You know what? It was that close to being thrown away when Carol put out that mug. And I said, "Oh my gosh! Now that she put out that mug, I'm gonna have to keep it around." So it's in my garage now. It's kind of falling apart, but I'm gonna fix it up and hopefully get it together for Halloween.
A little bit of tape.
Yeah, a little tape, a little spray paint. I'll get it. I'll get it together. I have a friend that's gonna wear it. I'm not gonna wear it. It's too much for me right now.
Although now I have this mug, now I want the other two.
Gosh. If you go to my old website, which is Maui Tiki Tours, MauiTikiTours.com, there's a link on there that says Halloween. You click on that link, and you see pictures of all three costumes. And there's also instructions on how to build it. You can see me when I was a kid. It's pretty funny.
Oh, fantastic.
Standing there with it, in my board shorts and stuff. It's pretty hilarious.
I don't know if people noticed, but Carol actually put these two little
Little eyes.
eyeballs on the inside of the mouth to be Tiki Rob inside of the costume.
Names, but someone got their mug and complained, said, Carol, there's some glaze skips right in the mouth.
No way.
Send us back to you and get those fixed. Mr. Rob's eyes.
Is that a true story?
Yep. True story. And then they're like, that's brilliant. Oh my gosh, that's so brilliant. But at first they really thought it was glaze skips. It was actually, so pretty funny.
I want to talk to you, if I can. I was incredibly fortunate to be in the right time at the right place at Tiki Oasis in San Diego.
Right.
And I got your Octopus Mug.
That thing's heavy.
It's what?
It's heavy.
It feels substantial. Well, that's one of my questions. Obviously, you've been adding octopuses on some of your designs for, well, geez, it's got to be over a decade now.
Right.
Some of your most popular designs, you put it on your shirt. People love them.
Right.
They're fantastic. This one, I saw it, and I was like, man, I have to own it because it's like the most crazy, most elaborate Tiki Rob octopus mug I've ever seen. But with that said, I don't understand how this exists because, like, this stuff, all these tentacles had to have been so fragile, and yet it's supporting like the weight of the mug. So how did you make it?
So the middle part is my mokai mug, right?
Yep.
That's the base. And then the top part is actually my coconut mug. And I stuck the two together. Right? And then I just, used clay to put the eyes on and everything. And then it actually sat on a cup for a long time while I put the legs on, right? So the legs, It was being supported by a plastic cup. And then I put all the legs on and curled them around. I tried to make the legs, kind of touch and connect so they wouldn't be too fragile.
So was it sitting like this or was it like this?
No, it was straight up and down.
Okay.
All the way around. It was right side up when I worked on it. I just had it sitting on a cup. So if you look up underneath, it's like a perfect circle where the cup fit up inside there. Yeah. I had a little cup up inside there that was holding in place while I put all the tentacles on until it dried, and then I could take the cup out.
How long do you have to wait? Because this mug, and then I assume your Kokomora. The Kokomora mugs have the feet, right? How long does it have to dry?
The Kokomoras can stand up on their own right after I stick the legs on. That
Oh,
was so busy that I had to have the cup under there for a while. I mean, the clay out in Maui, the clay dries in 24 hours, you know, so it dries pretty quick.
benefit of being on the islands.
Yeah. Working on molds right now for my Christmas mugs, and so they're actually drying pretty fast, drying in 4 or 5 days, where, you know, a lot of people say it takes 10 days or more to dry wherever they are, and they have fans blowing on them and everything. But I live in the Bakersfield of Maui, which is just hot and dry. So that's
I think I saw you. So you were going live the other day and talking about your sale coming up on, I believe it's Black Friday. Did you say you were going to have 130 mugs?
That's my goal. So I just talked about earlier the 30 mask mugs I want to make.
Yep.
And I'm going to make Tiki Bob mugs, 100 of them, all different. That's my goal. We'll see if I can do it, but that's my goal. So they're going to be small. They're not going to be, I'm going to call them like sippers or something. They're not going to be full-size mugs. They'll be maybe six inches tall, kind of like Bud vase size. But, you know, you can use them as a sipper if you're drinking rum on the rocks or something.
Yep.
But, you know, you won't be able to use them for a full-blown drink. It's more something to collect. There's a ceramic artist called, his Instagram is York Ghosts, like ghost, like a Halloween ghost. York
Yep.
Ghost. And he makes a very simple little ghost out of ceramics, and they're all glazed differently in these crazy ways. And everyone's different. And I just was inspired by that, thinking, what mug can I make pretty simple that I could glaze everyone different and just go crazy and have fun? And, you know, I'll learn a lot, I'm sure, you know, doing all different glaze techniques. I'm going to try like dripping glazes and spraying glazes, painting under glazes. I'm going to do a little bit of everything. That's why I'm excited about it.
Every day's Wing It Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm just going to wing it out. And I always tell the other mug makers, you know what? You have an idea in your head what you think it's going to look like when it's done. But when it comes out, it may not look at all like what you think it's going to look like. But you didn't know that. You don't know that it was supposed to be, you know, red or brown or green or whatever. And if it comes out not how I expected, you don't know what it was supposed to look like. So I'll learn a lot, and you guys will think it's all great. And try to do 100. I'm going to let people buy more than one. And then after the first hour, if there's still some available, you can come back and buy 2 or 3. You know, I'm hoping it becomes something that people collect a few of, you know, so they could have 3 of them in their collection, or 4 or 5 or more, just because they're all going to be different, but they'll be fun little Bob mugs. So my goal is I'm going to make 3 different molds, and each mold will have 2 mugs in the mold. So I'll be able to pour 6 molds at a time, or 6 mugs at a time. So I could potentially
I had never even given that a thought.
I could get 18 mugs poured a day if I really work hard. And so that's my goal. We'll see if I can pull it off. But I have the 6 mugs sculpted. I'm going to make molds tomorrow. So I'll probably do some photos of the mold making process and some pictures. So check back to my feed and you can see.
Are you dreading it? Because I think I've seen you post on Instagram that the mold making process is not your favorite ceramics.
Worst part. Oh my gosh, it's so stressful. I mean, you spend hours and hours and hours making the perfect mug, and then you have to put clay around it and everything, and then you pour plaster on it, and the plaster has the potential of leaking or bubbles or not flowing in if your plaster starts hardening before you're ready to pour, or if it's too thin. You know, there's so many variables with the plaster that can just screw everything up, you know. I'm knock on wood, I've never had a plaster leak. But
I was just going to ask you, if you've never had plaster leak, why does it? Why is it your worst enemy?
It's just scary because then once it's done, how do you get the plaster out and your original mold out? You know, it's like usually the master gets destroyed when you're taking it out of the plaster, especially if you're using water-based clay. The master mug gets totally destroyed. So if you're using like a oil-based clay or something, usually you can save the mug. But with a water-based clay, which is much easier to work with, the mug is just totally destroyed. So if the mold doesn't work, all that time is lost. You know, and mold making takes like on a normal like a 4-part mold takes about 10 hours. Takes me 10 hours to do it. So it's like a all day thing, starting early in the morning till late at night. It's just
Why is it so time consuming? Just because it has to set?
just you got to make that clay around the mold just perfect, you know, and you're putting your hands inside your box, you know, trying to get the clay all just exactly perfect and put the, you know, holes, the keyholes so the mold can stick together, you know, getting all that. And then you got to fill up every little seam with clay so that the plaster doesn't leak. And then you have to put mold soap on there. There's so many variables that you just got to stay on top of, you know. Sometimes I'll be all mixing the plaster and go, oh my gosh, I never put the mold soap on, you know. So I'm like, one hand mixing plaster, the other hand painting mold soap. Great.
What do you use to make your keyholes? Because I know people use different tools.
I just have you know, a lot of times I use a coin. Like if I do it with the wet clay, I'll use a spoon. I just scoop out just a little hole with the spoon. And then other times, if I don't put them in, I'll just take right in the soft plaster, right when after it's poured and starts hardening. I can take a quarter or something, spin it around, and makes perfect little hole. Other times, if the mold needs to come apart sideways, I'll just put like little blocks along the edges so that it can slide apart easier than with a little hole in there that might get stuck where you have to lift up. That makes sense.
I had someone submit a question ahead of this interview. They wanted to know what tools you use to carve your mugs. Is it a particular tool that you use, or is it?
You know what I use mostly is wood carving tools. I go to my local store, Ben Franklin, and for like $5, $6, I can buy a set of like 5 little teeny tools, little wood carving tools. And I only use the V-shaped tool and the U-shaped tools. And I just use that little V and the U-shape and I just carve away. And when you're working with like water-based clay, some of my actual ceramics tools I use to scrape away and you know, remove lots of clay, but all the detail comes with the little wood carving tools. It's frustrating to me to see some of these new mug makers. They'll take a mug and the clay is much too wet, and they take just a tool that looks like a needle almost, and they start carving detail and it just leaves all kinds of rubbish behind, and just it's not a good look. Where if you took a V-shaped tool and you carved into leather hard clay, you can actually carve a shape and you have a nice clean line that the mold, you know, the plaster spills in and it makes beautiful mold. Where these little scratched in lines that they're making with this needle tool, it's hard to get the plaster in there. It makes for a lot of cleanup, and most of the time they don't spend the time to clean those up, and then it just
what happens if you have just like carved speckled matter on the mug and you put it in the kiln? Does it like burn off, or does it become part of the finished?
Well, I mean, this is when you're making your master, so it'll pick up in the plaster, and so every one you make is going to have that little garbage on there in clay, you know, so it doesn't burn off. It's clay. It's part of the mug, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a sloppy mug. It didn't get cleaned up properly. I'm not supposed to talk about other people and the other people.
Everybody has their opinions.
Yeah.
You know, that's totally okay. You know, there are so many different mug makers making mugs in different ways, and that's part of what's so wonderful about Tiki is that there are so many different artists doing different things, and there's something for everyone. So
exactly. I loved watching Corey yesterday. Yeah, Coxswain.
Yep.
I love that guy because he's more like me, where he's making every mug is unique. All his atom bobs. You know, they're all different. They're all unique. He's having fun. He's getting totally artistic and creative with those. He's doing stuff I've never even done with decals and everything. And he's hand painting like aloha shirts and patterns on them and everything. They're just unbelievable. He's doing an awesome, awesome job. Um, he's not.
And he's got an answer for everything.
Yeah, it's not
It's like,
about.
hey, why did you do this, Corey? And he's like, oh,
Yeah,
well, of course, the dinosaurs, you know, what happened if they exploded in a nuclear bomb?
yeah.
It's like, okay,
But
that
that
makes
makes
total
fun.
sense.
It keeps his mind going. It keeps everything fun and exciting.
Yeah.
Rather than the same mug over and over and over again, all look the same. He's having fun and can sell each one, as a unique piece of art. So I really enjoyed his talk yesterday, and he's one of my favorite mug makers right now.
Fantastic. I'm sure Corey would be over the moon to hear that.
I sent him a little note, comment on your post. So yeah, pretty cool. So,
Awesome. I have a,
what got you into collecting mugs and creating this website?
so if people want the full story, I'll give you the abridged version. If
All
people
right.
want the full story, you can go watch our interview last year with Paul Briggs, Tiki Tum on Instagram, who's another fantastic artist. But basically, we went to D23, a convention, Disney convention, and it was a terrible experience.
No.
And we were like, this is not going well. We need to either suffer through it or come up with a new plan. And our new plan was to go to Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar, which we loved.
Right.
It was fantastic. So I went there and then fell in love with Tiki. And then after that, it had always been a dream of mine to spend Christmas in Hawaii. So right after I did that, I went to Hawaii and I jumped islands. So I went from the Big Island to, actually, I think I started on Oahu, and then I went to Maui, and then I went to Kauai, and then I ended on Kona.
Oh, beautiful.
And for me, a guy that lives in New England who deals with snow all the time, and New England's a beautiful place, but when you live there your whole life,
Right.
you don't really appreciate it fully. And so for me to go to Hawaii, it was like I was in the movies, I'm in Jurassic Park, I am in Jumanji, and I loved it, and I just fell down this complete tiki rabbit hole. And there are so many artists, you being one of them, that I've had an opportunity to talk to. That's just so inspiring, what they come up with. Everybody's making mugs, but everybody's mugs are different.
Right.
And it's just a really cool community.
Yeah, I mean, every mug is a little piece of art, so they're so fun to collect. There's a story behind everyone, and that's what drew me to it. Everyone is just like, it's like collecting art, but they only cost $100, not buying thousands of dollar painting,
Yep.
So-
And for me, so like I started collecting mugs. This bookcase behind me, when I did this, I think last year, was all Trader Sam's mugs. Was a completionist. I had every single Trader Sam's mug, and now I only have maybe a half dozen. And it's because as time has gone on, I've talked to people like you. I've made friends in the Tiki community, and now I've gone from, hey, these mugs were great, and I loved them, and they got me into Tiki. But ultimately, when I'm home and I'm looking at my collection, I want each mug to have a personal meaning. And if it's a Tiki Rob mug, if it's a Van Tiki mug, and I, talk to you, and I know you guys, and I know that the money is supporting a small local independent artist, that's what's important to me.
Right. Not supporting.
But and you've talked about this a little bit before. I know we're on overtime, so we'll try to wrap this up, but you don't have to be rich to get into Tiki. There are plenty of mugs, and I know people sometimes can get disheartened on Facebook because mugs sell out, and then they see people flipping them for hundreds of dollars more, and that's unfortunate. But there are plenty of cool mugs out there. Tiki Farm, Monk Tiki.
Yeah, I mean, Monk Tiki Imports, Tiki Farm, even Geeky Tikis, which I don't collect, but you could get into this collecting mugs, for, $20. There's lots of mugs out there you can buy for $20, $30, and what's cool is you go on eBay, the vintage ones, if you start off collecting Tiki Leilani mugs and stuff like that, the peanut mugs, Trader Dick's and stuff.
Yep.
Get those really cheap. You can start a really cool collection for not a lot of money,
Which is crazy when you think about it, because those are like some of the coolest mugs. Those are the authentic mugs, the vintage mugs that are 50 years old, that are from tiki bars that are closed. They have tons of history, And
Oh,
yet you can go on eBay and find them for $12 because nobody knows what they are.
right, right. And there's still mugs showing up on eBay that I've never seen, you know, that just so rare, no one knows what they are. Yeah, it's crazy. And this whole Instagram community is just awesome, you know, showing these mugs and history behind them and everything. It's great. Love it.
How many mugs do you have in your collection?
Oh my gosh, you don't want to know. Tiki Pop, Scott tells me I probably have 800 mugs. I honestly have never really counted.
Do you have more than Scott?
Yeah, you know, our collections are very different. Scott has an amazing collection, amazing. You got to come back to Maui and come see our collections. Scott has more valuable mugs. Like if the mug isn't worth $100, it's like not in his collection.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got, you know, a little bit of everything. I've got a lot of vintage mugs. I started out, you know, concentrating on vintage mugs, you know, and a lot of them aren't worth a whole lot of money. But I've got them and they're still in my collection. I've never really sold anything off. You know, I collect mugs. I don't sell them. Not the ones from my collection anyway. So I've got a lot of everything, you know, where Scott is, his mugs, every single one of them, you go, wow, look at that. Oh, look at that one. Oh my gosh, can't believe you have that one. It's just, it's pretty cool.
How did you and Scott meet?
We each have a son that are the same age. So our boys played soccer together and stuff. My very, very, very first mug I was involved with, I actually had mugs made in China before I knew how to make mugs. And he has a little shop that sells picture frames and all kinds of stuff. But tiki mugs is one of the things he was selling at his shop, mostly tiki farm mugs back in the day. And so I brought my China-made mugs to him and said, hey, do you want to sell these? And we started talking about stuff. And I had a pretty good collection going, but he hadn't really started collecting. He had the mugs from Tiki Farm that he was selling, and he had a few around the house and stuff like that, but he hadn't really started collecting. And I kind of, once he saw what I was doing, he got into it a little bit more. And then I actually taught him how to make mugs. So he's a good guy. You got to come visit.
How did you meet Carol?
Carol actually met Scott. So Carol showed up to Scott's shop and saw his mugs. And Carol has done ceramics for a long time, but never tiki stuff. And so she came to Scott's shop and saw all his stuff and said, wow, this is amazing. And she came out to Maui a couple times a year. So she went home and hand built a mug for him and came back to his shop and said, hey, I made this for you. It's a little tiki. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so she was out here actually with a friend of hers. And Scott called me up and said, hey, there's a woman here who made me a little tiki mug. We're going to go to the beach and drink Mai Tais. You want to meet us down there? And I won't turn that down. So we drank Mai Tais and watched sunset. And that's how I met her. So it was pretty cool.
Do you still love Maui as much as when you first moved there?
Oh, yeah. It's totally different now for me. When I moved here to windsurf, spent every day in the water, every single day. I windsurfed every day for 4 years. It was nuts. I worked at night, so I windsurfed all day. I painted boards. I was into all that. And then my life kind of changed, and I started my own graphics company and started working all day, and then I had kids, raised kids. So now it's, you know, my life's totally different, but I still love Maui. It's amazing. It's a real cool place. Starting to get a little crowded over here, but still better than Oahu.
Population-wise or tourism-wise?
Both.
Both.
I mean, it's growing too fast, and then the tourists. It was crazy because we went, you know, this whole pandemic with being shut down and no tourists here. It was crazy. There was nobody here, and then one day it opened up, and we went from, you know, like 5% occupancy at the hotels to 100% overnight. And so we went from nobody being on the road to like traffic jams everywhere. So all the locals just freaked out, you know, like, this is crazy. We should have eased into it somehow, you know. There was no rental cars available. Every single rental car was rented. People were renting their cars on Turo, you know, their own personal cars out because tourists needed a way to get around, you know. So it just got crazy really fast.
Is it open now?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the governor kind of a month ago said when this new variant of the virus, saying, hey, if you can, put your vacation off for a while or don't come right now. So that kind of slowed things down again. So but people are still coming. It's but it's a little more manageable right now, I guess, than it was 2 or 3 months ago when we just got hit hard with 100% tourists everywhere. The stores couldn't.
Have most of the that you know of, most of the businesses like survived?
My business didn't. My graphics company shut down. It was kind of headed that way anyway. I was ready to shut it down. So the pandemic just kind of pushed it along. But I know there's a lot of places that still haven't reopened, partially because they can't get employees right now. No one wants to go back to work. It's just too crazy of a time. So yeah,
Okay.
most everything's opening back up. But there was a lot of mom and pops that did go under and won't be around anymore. It's kind of
That's
sad.
so sad.
Yeah.
Where, as a Maui local, if you're visiting Maui, what are your favorite spots? Where do you go?
Like for a drink or for food or for things to do?
Sure, all of the above.
All the above? Oh my gosh.
Just your absolute favorites.
Um, Monkey Pod Mai Tai is something you got to do while you're here. There's a Monkey Pod on the west side in Lahaina, in Whalers Village, Kaanapali. It's actually in the location where I had my first job on Maui. I worked at a restaurant called the Rusty Harpoon, and now it's Monkey Pod. And there's also a Monkey Pod in Wailea, like a stone's throw from my house. I can just run across the highway here and go there for a Mai Tai. But that's definitely a spot you got to hit. Get a Mai Tai there. They're really, really good. As far as things to do, you got to go to Hana and do the hike above the 7 sacred pools to Waimoku Falls.
Yep.
Best hike on the island right there. So go to Hana, get up early. If you want to go watch sunrise at top of Haleakala, I don't recommend it. You have to have reservations, and it's really cold. You better off.
And terrifying.
Yeah.
I was braced for the cold because I'm from New England. What I
Right.
was not braced for was the drive up that volcano in the dark.
10,000 feet up in the dark. Yeah.
And there are just like, you can barely see any side of the road. And you know that if you mess up, you're going to tumble, I don't even know how many feet to your death.
Yeah, and a lot of times you got to go above the clouds. The top of Haleakala is above the clouds. So you're driving through clouds, and it's like the thickest fog you've ever been in. You can't see 10 feet in front of you. So it can get pretty crazy. So I recommend go for sunset. You don't have to have reservations. There's no crowds. Much warmer. You don't have to wake up at 3 in the morning. So that's my tip of the day. Haleakala sunset, not sunrise.
Perfect. Let's do another giveaway, and I'll have a couple last questions for you. This pin, the Black Lagoon Room, it's got a tentacle holding a cocktail, one of my favorite pins that they've made. For those that don't know, the Black Lagoon Room, they sell mugs, horror-inspired mugs, pins, all kinds of cool stuff. This is going to be an easy question because the last one was hard. Easy if you went to Tiki Oasis in Arizona. Tiki Rob shared a booth with someone, another mug artist. Who did he share a booth with? The first person to comment it will win this pin.
All right,
one question that I like to ask everyone, Rob. I get answers from Van Tiki, who hates opening the kiln, says it's the worst thing in his life, to Shima Ceramics, who says it's like Christmas morning. Where do you fall?
Christmas morning. I love it.
Yeah.
I've never had anything, totally explode. With slip casting, you don't really have to worry so much about things exploding. I have opened with cracks and things like that, but the crack is about the worst thing that can happen. But it's like Christmas morning. I love opening the kiln to see what all these new things, just beautiful. Because this isn't so exciting, but when it comes out of the kiln, it's just all glossy and new and just amazing. Oh my gosh, that took a while for someone to get the answer to that question.
I think people were throwing out random answers, but
was Mai Tai missed the first one?
So the first person to answer it correctly, I believe, was Tucson underscore Tiki Jeff.
Ah,
And
yep.
they guessed it correctly. Mini Tiki Meow. So Carol shared a booth with Tiki Rob. A lot of people guessed Scott. Scott was there, but he was the booth adjacent with Odd Rodney. And Odd Rodney is another fantastic artist. So if you're not following Odd Rodney on Instagram, give him a follow. One last question before we give this mug away, Rob.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on the show. What's next? So Black Friday, right?
Black Friday.
That's when it's coming out. 130 mugs, maybe,
130.
hopefully. And if people want to follow you, is it tikirob.com?
TikiRob.com is my website. There's not a lot going on there that's new and exciting. There is a link to my shop there. There's also a link to my store on Instagram. I'm an Instagram kind of guy. I tolerate Facebook, but I don't like it. On there from time to time. I'm starting to get back into it, learning how it all works because there's so much going on there. But I can't handle all the cat videos and politics and everything else. I just want to see pictures, you know. Let's show me some pictures and have positive things going on, you know. So that's what I like. I get inspired by Instagram. I always have been. You know, from day one, I follow artists and people creating things, and I just love it, you know. So Instagram is a place if you want to follow me. You know, I'm just at Tiki Rob. And then there's a link on Instagram to my store, which bypasses my website. You don't have to go to tikirob.com to get to my store. You can go to click on the link there. It takes you to the store. And there's an announcement right there on my store about my Black Friday sale. And I'll post all the mugs there a couple days before the sale so you can see what I'm going to be selling and you can pick the ones you like best. And then when the sale happens, good luck.
Be quick.
Be quick.
May the Tiki gods favor you.
Right. Well, that's what I'm hoping, because I have so many mugs this time that everyone will be able to get, you know, one. And then, like I said, after maybe an hour or two, or maybe after 24 hours, I'll open it up and let people come back and buy even more, you know, if they want to give them as gifts or have multiples in their collection. So
I will bet you a cocktail the next time in Maui that there is not a chance in the world you will have a mug available on your website 24 hours after they go on sale.
Even if I have 130, because normally I've got only sell like 40 or 50 mugs at a time.
Not a chance, dude. Not a chance.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. You're pretty optimistic.
All right, everybody that's watching this amazing mug. What was your website that you said that you could see info on your Halloween costume?
It's MauiTikiTours.com.
Maui Tiki Tours.
Yeah, it's not a secure website, so you might get a warning from Google or something. Try to search it. It's just an old site. It's not harmful. You can go there and look around.
It's worth it. It's worth it for the history and the photos of young Tiki Rob.
Yeah, and there's pictures of some really old mugs on there. All my first mugs on there. So if you want to get back into the history of Tiki Rob, you can check that out.
Fantastic, man. All right. With that said, the winner is Stanley Flowers. So Stanley Flowers, thank you so much for entering. You have won this mug from Mini Tiki Meow as a tribute to Tiki Rob. Rob, thank you so much.
Oh, I can't believe Gabe's giving that mug away.
I have my own. So thank you to Carol too, actually, because I was not willing to give mine up. And so Carol helped me out with this giveaway. Carol's an amazing artist, at Mini Tiki Meow on Instagram. Give her a follow. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. I have to say, we're doing 13 nights. Of all the 13 nights, I think I was most excited to talk to you. When I was making the search for Tiki, you were one of the first artists to respond to me, to let me use the photos. You were supportive. And I know sometimes it's like people don't really realize the actions that they do, what impact it has on other people. But you being supportive gave me the confidence I needed to really push the search for tiki.com. And so
Awesome.
I am eternally grateful, man.
Well, I hope you found that all Tiki people are as friendly as I am and will help you out, That's what I love about the community. Everyone's just so positive and just fun. I love Tiki people.
They're the best people.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right,
We got
Rob.
to drink and dress up. What gets better? What can be better than that?
Music, parties,
Right, right,
drinking, mugs.
right.
It's
Just
all part of that aloha spirit.
yep, perfect.
So, all right.
All right,
Thanks everybody for joining.
thank you.
Rob, it's been a dream. Have a good night,
All
and
right,
hopefully I'll see you sometime on Maui.
for sure. Aloha.
Aloha. Mahalo.